Hello, welcome back to Impartation Station. I'm Amanda.
I'm Jason.
And we are so excited to get into another conversation with you guys. If you haven't already, make sure to check out our previous episodes. We actually just closed the chapter on our testimony that brought us to this point. It was a difficult, hard road. We had a lot of raw conversation, and it actually led to us being able to have these healthy, honest conversations, not only in our family and marriage, but to welcome you guys into these conversations with us.
Yeah, so welcome aboard this train and just be ready to go on the ride of your life because now we've made it to the point to where we've...
Choo-choo. Just gonna
Why? Why?
I always, the amount of times I'm tempted on this podcast to say choo-choo, all aboard. We are on the Impartation Station.
Yeah. So anyways, now that you're all aboard this train, like we're going to go, we are diving into subscriber requests now.
Yes.
And this episode's going to be special because we're going to talk about something that most of the world doesn't talk about. But first, we just also want to invite you to like, comment, subscribe on all social platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Spotify.
Keep going.
All the things. We are on everything.
Yeah. And we're just so honored to be here. And we thank you guys for even joining us.
Yeah. And we really encourage commenting. We really encourage even messaging us and definitely subscribing. You don't want to miss out on any of these conversations. You know, we want this to be a family, a community. We are being honest and vulnerable, and we want to hear your feedback and the things that you guys want us to talk about. And that's how we got to this conversation today.
Yeah. And today is the day that we're going to expose some things.
We're going to talk about purity.
Yeah. Dive right into it.
Yes.
There you go. You know, she's usually like let me dip my toes in. And right now you just dove into it. So let's do it.
It's purity, okay? And this conversation can be very controversial.
Yeah.
So I think society as a whole really pushes that there is a healthy sexuality, right?
I mean, in all aspects, actually, it's healthy to watch the adult films. It's healthy to pleasure yourself. It's healthy to do all these things, and really, it's not as healthy as you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. I mean, we're going to dig into our own stories here, guys. We're going to dig into our dating journey and what our even just first steps of purity was. But I think to start, just really defining purity would be a good thing to go off. And I think right now in culture, purity isn't pushed. It's actually promiscuity that's pushed.
Yeah.
And I think that these things are pushed as normal and they can feel like everybody's norm. And then the biblical standard of what intimacy actually looks like is considered taboo.
Yeah, and walking in that looks completely different because nowadays you can't turn on a TV show without there being almost like near physical intimate scenes. You can't turn on a music video without someone shaking their butt in your face. You can't turn on a commercial without them pushing an agenda that's sexualizing youth. And it's actually crazy to have this conversation now because we live in an era where it is so normal that it's pressed into our teenagers as normal. And we want to really just invite you into this because we're two adults.
Yeah.
And we've, obviously we have children. So we've experienced all the things before because we've been divorced and now we're together. But even in our walk in purity, it was still a rough road.
Yeah. And it was something new for both of us.
Yeah.
And I think even on the other side of the spectrum, there's like toxic purity.
Yeah.
So there's like the religious purity of certain cults and religious groups that operate in a lot of legalism where the conversation about physical intimacy within relationships and partnerships isn't spoken of. It's actually viewed as sinful to even have that desire, to even have that curiosity and conversation. And therefore, it breeds even greater perversion because it's kept hidden.
Yeah.
And then when these desires and things come up in the body, nobody's there to say anything about it except this is bad and this is and condemn you for it. And then it creates this toxicity and hiddenness that allows you to actually step even further into perversion and sin.
Yeah. It opens the door wide open to a world that most of us have never seen.
Yeah.
And going through into that, and just culturally now, it's time for a shift.
Yeah.
I feel like it's time for a shift, that there are more people out there searching in a way because they've done it the way the world's taught them how to do it their whole lives, and it's not working for them.
Yeah.
Because they're playing as if they're married, but then what happens is they do the engagement and then they get so close to being married, but they already experienced every benefit of marriage that they don't even make it to the marriage. And we see it over and over and over again.
Yeah. And I mean, we also took part of that.
Yeah, and that was my last relationship. It had every benefit of marriage, and then when it came down to it, actually, I'm going to be super honest, is what happened is the Holy Spirit. It was the first time I heard the audible voice of the Holy Spirit, and he said, "Where you're going, she cannot." And that was the act of obedience. I was like, I got to go. And that was a scary situation because it put me homeless with my son for a few months, but then the Lord provided. That's a whole nother testimony. We can get into that another time. But it was the obedience to the Holy Spirit because I was living a sinful life. I was living in sin. I was experiencing everything that marriage should have been outside the covenant of marriage. And it just created a breeding ground for just a even deeper sinful nature.
Yeah.
And so getting delivered and set free from that, it started with the obedience of, I actually have to leave this relationship and now I have to pursue Christ. But what happened is that it wasn't that easy. It turned from leaving a relationship, pursuing Christ with all my heart, but then it had to break this perversion and lust off of me piece by piece by piece by piece. It wasn't an overnight thing. It was a process of things.
Yeah. And I mean, like, hold on, because it's like in defining purity, it's really, it's in define, you know what it is? It's the headphones are like bothering me a little bit with the frame. So with purity, the definition we would stand on is abstaining from any sort of physical intimacy prior to marriage.
Yeah.
And that even counts for those of us who have not walked in purity our entire lives, who have had previous relationships, who have walked in sin before and gave our lives to Jesus. We are new creations. And that doesn't mean that the same old things that we were walking in before, we have to continue walking in.
Yeah.
When we are a new creation, that means that God not only dwells in us, but he empowers us to do things differently. It's not behavior modification. It's relying on the Lord in these areas to be able to walk through his original design for our lives.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think that he actually rewrote my entire life for me. That he's like, you know what? I've got something better for you. I've got my plan. And this is my plan A for you, even though that you decided to do your plan B, C, and D.
Yeah.
And he's such a good God because he's graceful and his mercies are made new every day. But I'm going to go back to that point when I was living in that sinful life because I did believe in God. Yeah. And that wasn't even a question I even asked in that relationship. Was like, do you believe in God? Yes. But the problem is that my belief in God was that he was a God that that I shape and mold to my liking. That I shape and I put an expectation on him that what I'm doing is perfect and acceptable because I'm human and I'm sinful by nature and I can do it because, you know what, God, you're going to forgive me. But that wasn't a real relationship with God. That was not a real relationship with accepting Jesus into my life. It wasn't to go and do and do and do and do. It was like the relationship was be obedient. Now I'm going to work on your heart, work on your mind. I'm going to transform you, wash you in the blood, and then you're going to be washed by my word, and you're going to come out in a purer form. And even till this day, it's like, because purity has very many different aspects. Your eyes, it's the things that come out of your mouth. It's even the posture of your heart. I mean, it is a multitude of things.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to say because it's like I think within religion there can be so much hypocrisy.
Yeah.
When we fail to realize it's about relationship and it's about allowing the Lord into the deepest, darkest parts of ourselves and allowing Him to empower us and transform us through that journey of sanctification. So it's not like, oh yeah, I'm abstaining from doing physical intimacy before getting married, but then I'm also gossiping and
Yeah.
lying
It all comes
and
with it.
drinking. Yeah, and doing all of these things. It's like, no, there is a well-rounded purity that God wants to do in us, right? He
Yeah.
wants to bring us closer to holiness through relationship with Him. And He's the only way that we can receive that.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing because this is what I've learned on that journey of just walking in it for myself is that even though Jesus died for me, and I believed that this lie that his mercies and graces were made new every day, that I was just, able to walk as if I, come as you are, this Christian that walked that life. It was like he just came and stopped me in that moment. And in that obedience, he reminded me of who I was because it started with like, I didn't want to sleep with that person anymore before that. It was like something happened in my mind, something happened in my heart because it's that he's so good that he began that transformational work before even I was obedient. And that's what I believe really worked on, opening my ears to hear him because it opened my heart to receive him. And when you open your heart to receive him, you open your heart to the kingdom of heaven. And to open your heart to the kingdom of heaven, you actually open your heart to what he has for you and who he is. Because the character God is never changing.
Yeah.
He is the same today, yesterday, and forever. He's never going to change. He's always going to pursue you, but you have to be ready for him to pursue you. You have to open your heart for him to pursue you. And I'm just so grateful that it was at that moment I decided to go on that journey. I decided to say, all right, God, I'm going to let you in. I'm going to let you into every deep, dark aspect of my life because obviously there's more for you. Because my testimony is that I'm medically verifiably healed. And you would have thought that I would have walked in obedience from that moment on. But what happens is that you start to walk in obedience, but then you get comfortable and then you get complacent.
Yeah.
And then,
Well, and I think that there's even those like that faulty theology.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, it's like, yeah, are these things scriptural? Like when you said his grace and mercy is new every morning, right? These things are scriptural. They are in the Bible. But when your theology is faulty, then you can fall into this hyper gracism. You can walk your own walk and fit the Bible to what you want to live your life rather than allowing the Lord to mold and transform you to live and walk in the way that he has for you.
Sometimes I think too, we walk in hyper gracism in our own steps because we'll go to church, we'll listen to the word, we'll even hear the pastors talk directly to us. Like they might pull you aside and be like, hey man, I'm concerned about you. But then you brush it off.
Yeah.
Because you actually have no reverence. That's scary to me.
Yeah.
That's a terrifying thought to not have reverence for the pastor of a church that actually does care about you, that is telling you something that's hard, but in a way that's loving and that you're able to brush it off. I mean, God put them in charge over you. They're responsible for your souls. It's like you and I, we do young adult ministry and it's an amazing thing, but like we're responsible for their souls. Like our hearts break for them because we're like, God, we're going to, let like do the work, Lord. And so I can begin to empathize with the words that they've told me now, because we don't always get it right.
Yeah.
We tend to fail so many times.
Yeah, and a lot of times we don't even know the answers, and we need to seek not only the Lord but our own leadership, in order to be able to facilitate what we are called to facilitate, in this season. And I know that purity, right? So your previous relationship and the ending of that allowed you to walk into the things that God had for you, and that beginning of the true purity of your walk
Yeah.
and the transformation. So what did that look like in the single season of your life? Because I know that those watching, like, yeah, there's those that are in those relationships still. There's those that are in Christian godly relationships but don't believe that abstaining will work. But then there's the single people that are
Yeah.
like, I am abstaining, but what is abstinence in singlehood?
You can't get stuck in a cycle. You have to break the cycle, because we do tend to fall into, at least I did for myself, I'll speak about that, where I did tend to fall into, okay, I'm doing good. I'm 2 weeks out. I haven't done anything. I haven't, watched any adult films or anything like that. And then it'd be like 3 weeks, then 4 weeks, then it's, oh man, I fell. And then I'm calling somebody, hey, yo, can you pray for me, man? I fell. And it's like, oh yeah, bro, I got you. But see, you don't need a yeah, bro, I got you. You need somebody that's going to recognize the signs before you fall, and actually be there to hold you accountable, but also make it a safe space for you, that when those thoughts start coming in, that you can go to them and have a conversation. You can talk to them, and they can pray for you, and they can lift you up, and they can hold you accountable. Because what happened is that I ended up finding a good support system. And in that support system, I started to do things that were productive for my life, that were healthy for my life. I found a new purpose in my life.
Yeah.
And it was a group of guys that they would rally around me, but anytime I felt temptation, I was able to call them, or actually, better yet, it's not even that I would call them, and then they'd show up. And that's what we need as men, because when you're walking in temptation's going to come looking for you the moment you start walking away from it.
Yeah.
In its ugly face, it's like, what's the Bible say about the adulterous woman? Is that she's looking through the night, and then it's like she makes the bed for you, and then that's what happens. And so I was just thinking, even as I'm speaking about this, I was thinking about covenant and what covenant looks like and an adultery looks like. So if I have a covenant with the Lord and I'm willfully walking in sin, I'm breaking my covenant with the Lord. I am becoming adulterous in my relationship with God. I'm literally committing adultery to the Lord.
Yeah.
Because if we're the bride of Christ and I'm cheating on him with something out of the pit of hell, that's destroying my life. Because when I was walking in that kind of sin, and it was like every time I would fall, what would happen is I'd feel shameful, I'd feel condemnation, my confidence level would go down. I would go to work, it would be like everything would just start beating me up left and right. And it's like, man, it's just one shot after the other. But what I realized was the moment I started stepping away from it was the moment I stopped feeling shame, the moment I stopped feeling condemnation, the moment I stopped feeling beat up left and right, the moment my confidence started to go up. That's how I have such a beautiful wife. I had confidence to talk to her. Normally I wouldn't have no confidence. But side note, but it is an uphill battle, but you have to have a good support system.
Yeah.
A system of accountability, and that's what gets you through it.
Yeah.
That's what really gets you through it.
And I think we also have learned that although we are humans, right? We have flesh, we have natural desires, and our flesh wants things. And our flesh is impulsive a lot of times. So we have these things come up.
Promiscuous.
And I'm even going to start with saying that, like, physical intimacy is actually good It's something that is good for you. And that may be a surprise coming from two people that believe in Jesus, right? Because you may have experienced a religious spirit. You may have experienced a lot of legalism, condemnation, and shame in your life. But it does not mean that physical intimacy is bad. Actually, physical intimacy is good in the way that God designed it. You see, we have these temptations. We have these things that the enemy twists in order to keep us in bondage. We have flesh that's natural and human and susceptible to the sin and death of this world that causes us to fall into things that want to kill our purpose and kill our destiny. But God created us with such a perfect design that actually physical intimacy holds so much weight. We've learned through just our leadership that it's more than just this physical act. I know in culture, it's like, oh, it's casual. It can be casual. It's just choosing when you want to do it, who you want to do it with, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be a big deal. No strings attached. When in fact, it's actually a really big deal. It holds a lot of weight and a lot of value. It's not only a physical connection, it's an emotional connection, it's a spiritual connection, it's all of these things. It's an intellectual connection. That act just holds so much weight in so many areas that you're actually connecting yourself to someone, and the result of physical intimacy is to be able to create life. That's the weight and value that God placed on this thing. But it's so powerful and so good within the construct of marriage, which is where it's supposed to be accessed. And when it's not accessed in the way God designed, it's going to pervert your lives.
Yeah.
It's going to cause more destruction and more brokenness in your lives. And we've experienced both ends of the spectrum. We've experienced physical intimacy in a godly marriage with one another. But we also have experienced what physical intimacy in a relationship that doesn't honor God, and what that looks like, and how divorce follows, how all of these things follow.
Yeah.
And I think that knowing the weight of physical intimacy, not being afraid of it because God created it, but knowing God's design for it, and that there is a way to walk in the ways of God with this, and that God will empower you to walk in his ways.
Yeah. How was that for you?
I think for me, walking in purity, I was actually, when I first got saved, so I know you've been saved a long time. We've spoken about it before for years and years. And I actually am more newly saved. I've been saved for 4 years. So when I first got saved, I was in an ungodly relationship. I was in a relationship with someone who did not believe in Jesus, who was not raised in the Christian faith in any way, shape, or form. They were actually raised in a different belief system. And that relationship I had poured 4 years into, and being a single mom prior, I think a lot of my value was placed in this relationship and in this person's willingness to want to be with me, being a woman who was previously divorced with kids at such a young age. I don't know if we've mentioned this before, but I was married at 18 years old. I had my first child at 19, my second child at 20, and then I was separated from my marriage at 23 years old. So there is a big, what felt like baggage that I was carrying. And to be in a relationship with someone that I perceived at that time as being good for me and holding more value than I did, which is actually such a lie from the enemy. You know what I mean? Yeah. We all hold value. We all hold purpose. And our past doesn't speak to our value. Actually, we are valuable because Christ created us, because we are in him. And that's what determines our value, is him. And because of that, it was hard because I had newly been saved. I was already in this relationship for so long where we were already physically intimate with one another. And although I began to feel that conviction and I tried to walk out the ways of God, I would fall. I would fall into that temptation, and then that condemnation and shame would come. And then I would repent and I would walk it out again. And it wasn't for I wasn't doing good for a week. I would go 3 months. 4 months, and then I would fall. And there would be I actually even want to speak to those that are in relationships where with someone who's not a believer, who hasn't given their life over to Christ, and who you're sitting in this relationship, and maybe there's hope there. Maybe they consider going to church, but if the Holy Spirit is telling you to leave that relationship, if that relationship is leading you into sin and further away from your convictions, if you have to compromise your love for Jesus for another person, then that is not the relationship for you. That is not the person for you. God has so much more for you.
Yeah.
And sitting in the lie that I put 4 years into this relationship, and me now being a woman who loves Jesus, who's going to want to be with me knowing the past that I've had? That is a lie from the enemy. I actually heard that pastor on social media, Philip Anthony Mitchell, he said, in an interview, he said that everything under the blood is a weapon for the gospel.
Yeah.
And the enemy is going to try and tell you that who you were is who you will always be. And actually, you're not a new creation. Instead, your past is going to haunt you. So how are you going to walk out this Christian walk when you've done this, when you've done that? You don't know what it's like to go to church. You don't know if these church people will accept you. Those are all lies that the enemy wants to trap you under. But when I heard him say that everything under the blood is a weapon for the gospel, it was that reminder of, hold on, wait. My past, everything that I've done up to this point, when I gave my life to Jesus, all of that was placed under his blood. I am washed as white as snow. My sin is as far east as it is from the west, and it is thrown into the sea of forgetfulness. And Jesus sees me for who I am in him. And therefore, I'm holding on to that value. And I don't care what anyone says about me. The devil can keep trying to lie to me because I know who I am, because I am who he says I am.
Yeah.
And he is not a God that lies. He is not a God that changes his mind. He created me with purpose. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And this was a understanding that I had to develop through relationship with Jesus. And it took me leaving that relationship and trusting God for what he had for me, rather than this false belief of the validation I was receiving from a relationship that was only leading me to hell. And there was actually an instance where I had fallen into sin, and it was a Saturday night, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night to see this dark, huge figure. It was like almost touching the ceiling, and it was so big next to the bed. And I remember the fear of the Lord just dropped in my spirit, and I knew that because I had fallen into sin, I had opened the door for the enemy in my life. God had just opened my eyes to the demonic realm in that moment to be able to see the weight of my sin. To be able to see that I had fallen not once, not twice, but a few times. And it was time that this cycle be stopped. It was time for me to know the weight of my sin is death. The weight of my sin is fear. The weight of my sin is destruction. And in that moment, I remember I just felt so much fear, but I knew where to turn, and I immediately turned to prayer, and I started praying to the Lord and asking for forgiveness and repenting. And I eventually remember falling asleep, but it was a rough night. And I remember that person that I was in a relationship with at the time also felt that heaviness, that weight, that darkness. And that person wasn't even a believer, didn't even know the weight of their own sin. But it's like, this is the weight of the things that we do and we fall into, and we open ourselves up to the things that God wants to protect us from and keep us from.
Well, it's even with that being said, because like we have children, we're not only opening ourselves up, we're opening up our children.
Yeah.
And then where does it end? I mean, we see families continually, and you see the sin pattern too, because it follows their children.
Yeah.
And when it begins to follow their children, it begins to get so deep and so enrooted into their family. It's like someone has to be the bloodline breaker. And like for you, it was like that was the bloodline breaker.
Yeah, and that's so true because I don't want to speak on anyone's, personal lives
Yeah.
and stories, but there is generational things and if you even ask your parents certain things that you struggle with, what that looked like in their lives, you'd be surprised to find out that there is a lot of similarities and things you can
Yeah.
relate to within grandparents, great grandparents, and things that the enemy continuously uses because it's worked before. And I remember that next morning I was going to church. I couldn't even find my keys. It was a long night and I just knew the weight of my sin. And I walked into church and the worship started and they were singing that song that says, "You're still my first love. You're still my only one." And I knew right there that God was speaking to me. I began to cry and worship God and say, "God, I thank you that even when I fall, that you are my first love and that you are here to pull me out of the pit that I have dug
Yeah.
myself into. Lord, that you are here to wash me again, God. Lord, that even when I have fallen into sin, if I turn to you, God, that you can still do a work in me." And that was when I was able to end that relationship.
Yeah.
And when ending that relationship, I was able to fully walk into my conviction within purity. And in my singleness, what that looked like for me was spending my time with Jesus.
Yeah.
I had nights, and I don't know if we've spoken about this on the podcast before, but I've had nights where I would just have the lights on in my prayer closet and I would be scrolling on my phone in bed and I would get a glimpse of the lights in the prayer closet and it was like the Lord was wooing me. It was like I could hear him saying like, I'm here if you want to come. I'm here if you want to speak. I'm waiting for you."
Yeah.
And it's like I couldn't even, it's like before I knew it, I was on my feet off my bed, walking to the closet and spending these moments with the Lord where he just poured so much love into me and I revealed every area of my heart to him and he fulfilled every area of validation I was seeking.
That breaking of all the insecurities. Because I remember, like you said, you were like, man, I found validation in it. That's where you would find the validity of your life. It was
Yeah.
your worth was in what a man would even think of you.
Yeah.
And I want to speak to some men and women out there about that too, because as men, we should be respecting and honoring women as daughters, wives, and mothers. That I just pray that the Lord changes the lens and perspective that you have on women, because that's what happened when I started dating her. It was, I'm like, "Lord, is this my wife?" And he's like, "She's a wife." And the fear of the Lord came over me. And I seen how serious the fact of the matter was, that if I was going to pursue dating you, that I would have to fall under like the obedient, I'd have to walk such a narrow line because he's trusting me with you. He's trusting me with his daughter, his beloved. And even as men, that you see them as daughters, that we don't find their worth in what they can give us or what we can get from them. We find their worth in who they are.
Yeah.
And that's what really counts, because if you can't find a woman's worth in who they are as a mother, as a daughter, as a wife, then you're going to completely miss and overlook everything that they are meant to be and every bit of value that God has placed in their life. And I just believe that, today is the day that this breaks off of some of the men that are actually watching this, that are wondering what it's like to walk in purity, because they had to break off of me.
Yeah.
Because I had that perverted lens of women. And now that when God shifted that, it shifted everything in my life. And even for women that find their value and worth in a man is that wants to use you for your body does not value you. A man that cannot wait does not see the worth in who you are.
Yeah.
A man that wants to pursue you or even forcefully press themselves upon you till they get what they want, they're never going to respect you at the level of respect that you deserve, and they're never going to see you for the worth that you actually carry as a woman and the words that come out of your mouth, because the weight of a woman's words, they hold weight, they hold value. There's so many things about you that I value, that I've seen in the fruit in our lives, that when I give you the floor to speak, I mean, you guys heard it like 5 minutes ago. the Lord speaks through her, but also our children, there's fruit on her mothering our children. There's fruit on when you come home into my house that you are going to see my wife. And people don't even like this word, that submission. My, like, you are submitted to me, but I'm also submitted to you. Like, I provide, and you're like, it's like just, it's a beautiful dance. We provide for each other. Our needs are different, but we provide those needs differently.
Yeah.
But that's because the lens that we see each other in is completely different. It's like the Lord revealed it to us, and now we're fulfilling the mission, because it's that humility that we find in one another that brings us close together, because there's intimacy here that cannot be broken.
Yeah.
And that's only because we've submitted to the process that the Lord has instilled in us in seeking and pursuing what purity is.
Yeah.
And what I just said was, I gave you guys the cheat code for the purity of your eyes, the purity of your mouth, the purity of your heart, the purity for your physical body. Like, that's the cheat code. Seek the Lord on these things,
Yeah.
because he will wash you clean in every one of these areas. And I believe that this podcast specifically is going to break some things off of people.
Yeah.
And
Well, and what's that scripture? Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all else will be added
Yes.
to you.
Yes.
So it's like, I even want to speak to the women that have this strong desire for a husband, that have this strong desire for a relationship. Ask yourselves, God, who do you say I am? God, what is this desire revealing about me, God? I know it's good to desire marriage one day. I know it's good to desire family one day. But am
Yeah.
I desiring this more than I'm desiring your presence in my life? Am I desiring more of what you can give me than who you are, God?
Yeah.
And I, even today when we were in worship, I heard the Lord say, I'm not only the provider, I'm also the provision.
yeah.
And I was like, man, Lord, you are just so good that all we need is you. That yes, you will provide the things here on earth that we need, the clothes, the food, all the things that we need. But you are also our provision. And with you, you are the provision that actually provides the fulfillment for every area of our
Yeah.
lives. That even if we didn't have clothes, even if we didn't have food, even if we didn't have relationships, even if we didn't have these things, all we would need is you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point
That's
that we
good.
need to come to in seeking purity. It's really seeking the Lord.
Yeah. And that's how what started with our relationship when we started dating, is that we were already in pursuit of purity, which means that we were already in pursuit of the heart of Jesus.
Yeah.
And he just chased us through this whole process of dating. And it looked very different for us,
Yeah.
for most people, because we started, I'm just going to say it, like, we had very high level of accountability.
Yes.
And if you are seeking purity and you're in a relationship, seek accountability.
Yes.
I mean, our friends, Nick and Ange, they're so amazing. And we were just talking about it earlier today, how we wrote our boundaries out on paper
Yeah.
and we gave our boundaries to them, and they held us accountable for those boundaries.
Yeah.
And they did such a good job at it, because they wouldn't let us break them. They wouldn't let us waver. It was like, because we were dating long distance, so it looked different. But then when we got in the presence of each other, it was like the temptation was like tenfold. But I seen you for who you were. Go ahead, baby.
And we're also two people that are like, we're major adults. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
we're not teenagers, which praise God for that teenage purity and all of those things. But we had been through 10 lives before
Yeah.
meeting each other.
Like, we already knew how good it was.
Yeah, we already knew what that was like. We already knew our previous experiences with marriage. We already knew what having kids was like. So it looked very different for us, but we still knew that God had a plan for purity in our lives and in our relationship
Yeah.
with one another. And those boundaries that we set, we knew which I actually want to honor our friends, because I think it's so important for us, even those that are just stepping into faith, that are curious about faith, to begin to connect with others that you see their lives and you see the fruit in their lives. And I just want to brag on our friends, because we know the fruit of their lives, and they are leaders. They are healthy leaders, and our friendships are iron sharpens iron. But there's times when my friendship with Angela, she's a higher capacity leader in areas than me, and I'm just receiving from her, and I'm so thankful for their marriage and their dating, even though they didn't experience the past that we did. They
Yeah.
provided such wisdom in the accountability
Yeah, amen.
realm, and we're able to just be people that we can rely on to be supportive of our relationship and the
Yeah.
health of that in a godly lens.
And I mean, we had a very big support group.
Yeah, we also had our pastors.
Yeah.
We had, yeah, it was awesome.
They did. We did. And even when I would go visit you, it was like, man, I had people in New York as accountability. So when I'd go visit you, and then when I came home, I had people here in Indiana.
Yeah.
It's like, to have those friendships and those bonds, find those friends, because they're going to hold you to such a high standard because they see your potential, they see who you are, and they see your purpose, and they don't ever want to see that purpose ripped out from under you due to your temptation, because everything inside of us is wicked. Everything inside of us wants to fall into that temptation because, it's good for the moment, but it's only good for the moment, and it's destruction for the rest of your life. And that's good leadership.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, again, I just want to revisit the weight of sin. I
Yeah.
know that this may seem like super intense and it seems like a lot, but that's what worked for us. And things look different. People have different levels of accountability, and that's according to your conviction and the temptations that you face.
Yeah.
But for us, that's what we desired. We desired a high level of accountability so that we wouldn't open the door to sin, not only in our own lives, but in each other's lives. We cared enough about each other because we saw each other for who Jesus says we are, and we were not going to compromise
Yeah.
for a fleshly temptation.
Yeah. Not worth it.
Yeah. And part of what those boundaries look like was because we were long distance, because I know everyone's like, ooh, what were their boundaries? What does it sound like? I mean, we know people that
let's-
didn't even like make
Hold
out
hands.
until marriage or hold hands or kiss. And we support whatever
Yeah.
works for you guys to remain abstinent, to be able to experience marriage in the way that God intended. But for us,
Well, I just want to just brag on our friends, because I get a phone call one time, and it's kind of a funny story. And my friend's like, dude, how do you even kiss her goodbye? He's like, our boundaries are so strict right now. Like, I can't even touch my girlfriend's hand. And I mean, it sounds funny, but it's like, these are real conversations that I've had with my friends.
Yeah.
Because just the value in the level of worth and love that we have for one another, that's how high it is.
yeah.
And that's God's plan. That's God's way, to be honest with you. You're going to love that other person and hold them at such a high regard that you're going to be like, man, it's hard for me to even hold their hand without being tempted.
Yeah, and I feel like even you saying that makes me think of the contrast of a lot of times in a relationship, we look and we feel loved by our partner based on how much they can't keep their hands off of us.
Yeah.
But how much more valuable is it when you have a partner that's like, man, I can't even put my hand on you because I am so attracted and I love you so
Yeah.
much that I actually respect and honor your purity as well as my own. And it's really hard, but I want to see this through till marriage because I'm going to pursue you for marriage.
Yeah. Well, you saying that, I literally just had this vision of this beautiful painting, and it's a roped off, and it's not supposed to be touched or anything, but it's so beautiful to look at. Because the moment you cross that line is the moment, if you cross the rope, now you want to touch it. Now that you've touched it, you want to take it for yourself. And it's that's the way I viewed you. Is I don't want to cross that rope because I don't want to touch and I don't want to take it for myself because it's not for myself to be taken.
Oh my gosh. And even you saying that, I feel like even old school movie theater or days where there would be a movie theater attendant
Yeah.
with a vest and just pulling back the rope. And I think that that's what the Lord does when we do step into the covenant of marriage with somebody, when we make that choice, because love is very much so a choice.
Yeah.
And it's then Jesus gives us that permission and this is yours.
Yeah.
You know, now you guys are joined together in this way, and it's something for you to experience. God doesn't want to keep us from having fun and doing all these good, like really exciting things. No, he wants us to experience them, but he wants us to experience them in a way that protects us and keeps us safe and keeps us in a trajectory of his will and his goodness and his love. And that's something so good.
Because marriage is good. Marriage is fun. The things that come from marriage is enjoyable together.
Yeah.
Like God created us to enjoy one another.
Yes.
So why not wait?
Yeah.
I
Why
mean,
not?
Like, right? Like I don't want the gift. It's like a kid opening a gift before Christmas. Like where's the excitement in that? What happened to that gift? It was like, oh, I already seen it. I already ripped back the and you're like, oh, I'm gonna pretend to be excited.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like, if you're going to be married and be able to
Yeah.
do this for the rest of your life, why not wait? You know, for however long it takes for you guys to be ready to take that step of marriage, why
Yeah.
not wait to step into that realm of physical intimacy? And for us, I want to go back to our specific
Yeah.
boundaries that we had, and we're not going to go over every single one, but just like major ones, because we want to let you guys into that area of our dating. We've already let you into areas of our marriage, into areas of our blended family, into areas of our
Yeah.
testimonies, and this is another area we don't mind sharing because it's something that bared fruit in our lives and in our relationship. And since we were long distance, we always ensured that you had somewhere to stay that was not at my home. I lived with my dad and brother at the time, by the way, and they were enough
Yeah.
accountability as it is. But you did have a friend that you would stay with in New York, and you had those texting people. And also, when you step into a relationship, can we talk about the temptation that comes when you're alone after we spent
Oh,
all this time
man.
together?
I had a time where I came home and it was strugglesville. I mean, I'm like, guys, I'm making the phone call. I'm showing up. Yo, y'all got to pray for me. And what they did was actually is they sat me down and we talked about it.
Yeah.
And then they were like, do you still feel like you need prayer? I'm like, dude, I need y'all to pray for me. And so what happened is obviously I received prayer, but it was like that temptation, guys, prayer works because that temptation, it was just stripped from me.
Yeah.
But even in that, I'm going to talk, this is something that's actually very personal. And so, men, these things happen. They happen when you're teenagers. You know, you have these dreams. And I remember one night I had this dream, and then I told you immediately about it. And then so I went to one of our ministers that I just highly respect, and I'm like, where is this in the Bible that these things happen? And he gave me these instances, but then he gave me the wisest words ever. And he's like, do you know what? He said, if it's from the Lord, he's like, go pray about it.
Yeah.
Go ask. Say,
And
say,
we're talking
Lord.
about nocturnal emissions.
That's the word. I was looking for the word. I couldn't
I
remember
remember
it.
when you told me
Yeah.
that word, and I was like, what is that? And you were like, I don't know. It's apparently the word that people call it. And I'm like,
so
wow.
nocturnal emissions, which means you're sleeping.
Everyone Google.
It is a dream,
Everyone pausing this video right now to Google, what is nocturnal?
right? So I go home and I get in my prayer closet and I'm like, Lord, if this is from you, it'll happen again. But if this is not something that you want me to experience, it'll never happen again.
Can you explain what you mean by if this is from you, Lord? Because I feel like people might be confused.
So it was
Why would that be something from God?
okay. So because I'm human, I have this mindset of like, okay, because our bodies, sometimes it hurts when you just get built up and it hurts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'm like, okay, maybe this is God's way of like releasing that.
Yeah, so that was your own human understanding
Right.
of what it could possibly be.
Right. So moving forward, and I say this prayer, I'm just like, Lord, like if this is not from you, this is going to stop today.
Yeah.
In the name of Jesus. And it never happened again. So like this dream that caused this nocturnal, immediately now I'm like, man, that right there was just temptation trying to creep its way into my dreams.
Yeah.
At some point, and the Lord set me free from it.
Yeah.
Because it just never happened again. And then it was like, the pain that you'd feel down there, because like our boundaries. So we had some areas where we'd be loose with, and
we were definitely able to kiss in our relationship. We were able to kiss for an extended period of time at
but
times.
you still get
Guys.
you still get turned on, but like even with that, it's like
hold on. I cannot believe we're even talking about this with you guys right now.
This is real. So you still get turned on all
adults.
the things, but
we can talk about
to
this.
put like this might actually have to have a thing on the
no. We're being discreet, I think.
But
I mean, we didn't do anything.
No. We did have a safe word.
Yes, we did. Because things do. Oh, I love you so much. Okay. Okay, first, before we even talk about the safe word, what I do want to say is we're laughing because this is a little bit of an awkward conversation. It's like something private between us and our accountability people that knew, but it's something that's so special, because I think people feel like physical intimacy is the way to be connected, and that's a closeness that you're missing out on if you're being abstinent. But actually, the lack of physical intimacy in our relationship is actually what gave us true intimacy, emotionally and spiritually, and all these things. We prayed for each other. We spoke about the love of God together, but we also spoke about our excitement and deep conversations about our lives. And
well, that's what brought us to this podcast, because our relationship was so like solely on communication that it was like the Lord like prepared us for this.
Yes.
It was, I remember when we got married, I'm like, I think we're going to do a podcast. And then, you guys already seen the episodes. She's like, no, she ain't willing. But
it wasn't that I wasn't willing. It wasn't the time. And now we're at the perfect timing. Yeah. Praise God. That wasn't pride, Lord, I promise.
But even with that being said, like moving into that moment, it was, we had to have a safe word. There just has to be.
Things get tempting. You know what I mean? We're two adults here, guys. Like, we're adults listening. And if you're not an adult, like, put your earmuffs on. You shouldn't be listening. Yeah. But it's like
if you're under 18... Forget about it.
None of our kids watch us. But we're adults. We enjoyed each other's company. We're attracted to each other. We're having all of this deep conversation. Of course, physical intimacy is a temptation. We'd be lying to tell you it wasn't. But we had a very specific safe word, which was actually someone's name. That we are not going to disclose on here.
We might.
If you want to take a guess, you can message us privately.
But we have a very high level of respect for them. And
honor.
That's why, because they're like a spiritual parent to us.
Yes.
They know us better than we know ourselves.
Yes.
Like, I'm actually, that might give it away, so I'm not going to go into that. But
this specific person is someone we both love, honor, and respect. And also, they're not afraid to bring correction. They're not afraid to say the hard word. So choosing that specific word actually brought that conviction into the room. It was like, hold on, pause. And it was a way that we were able to communicate with one another that, like, okay, I think we're close to crossing a boundary that I'm not comfortable with because I'm feeling some internal things come up,
But even with that, like, we even increased boundaries as time went on.
Yes.
We had to.
We had to, yeah. And that's what we learned about boundaries is like they should be flexible, not flexible in being lax to give you way for sin, but they should be flexible in a way of if they need to be increased in areas because you're noticing a temptation coming up differently, or decreased as well. And sometimes you start off with really strict boundaries and then you're like, okay, we can hold hands. That's fine. Okay, we can be in the same car together without other people. We were always able to be in the same car together. We were always able to like watch movies together. That was never a temptation. But we would not spend the night in a home together ever. We would not ever be exposed in any way. We would not even like, there would be no touching other than kissing, that kind of thing. And that was kind of what our boundaries look like. And before we got married, we didn't even make out at all. Yeah. And
actually, I
think 2 weeks?
I think it was 2 weeks before. It was because you moved out here 2 weeks. So she moved out here, and then I stayed with a friend while she lived in our house that we have now.
Yeah.
And then when we got married, it was like I had to move back in.
Yeah.
But in that time, we actually didn't even kiss each other. And that sounds absurd to some people, but I'm going to tell you what, when she came walking down that aisle and I said, I do, I laid a big fat one on her because I could not resist at that moment.
Well, and can we talk about a little bit about our wedding night? Not everything,
Yeah.
but I'll say what I want to say so that we both know the boundary of sharing it. I know this is a long conversation, guys, but we are like, this is a good conversation. So if
Yeah.
you're still here, like, we honor you. We
Yeah.
value you. Like
Let it
this
flow.
video right now. Comment safe word if you're still watching this video, because we want to know if you made it
Yeah.
to this point. But even our wedding night, like, I want to talk about this specific thing because I think it truly will give people a glimpse at something that they may have never heard before. You know, a lot of people talk about their journey before marriage, but what did that night of the wedding look like? And to me, I felt like, and this is going to sound cheesy. This is going to sound like a movie line, but it felt like so new. It felt like the first time. It felt like
It was the first time.
well,
Like,
it was the
I
first
felt
time
like-
for me and you, but it felt like
the
first time ever.
Yeah.
And it
Like,
wasn't
straight up.
like this weird Christian, like,
No.
I'm trying to act like I was, you know, I never lived a life before it. Clearly we have kids. But it was just, there was such a purity and just a innocence
Yeah.
to that moment in our lives. We were almost like a little bit like nervous, a little bit like we don't know what to expect.
Bro, I was like all giddy. Like I felt like
Yeah.
I was 16 again. It was wild.
Yeah, and it was
Like imagine that real quick, guys. I just want to like, not me, but like just imagine feeling like you're 16 again. Imagine that. Like think about that. Imagine feeling like that first time that you've ever fell in love.
yeah.
Like it's that moment when you know.
Yeah, and it was just
I mean, I knew, but it was like now I know.
and we were already at such a close point just in our relationship together that I felt like that was just the added bonus
Yeah.
on such deep intimacy that we already had. And I say all that to say, and I think this is a beautiful note to close it on.
Yeah.
But I say all that to say that we were two people with, hold my hand.
Oh, she's my hand.
We were two people that had experienced promiscuity and who had experienced losing our virginities at different ages in teenagehood, and we both experienced marriage and divorce and ungodly relationships in our lives. But God is so good that he was able to redeem all of the years that the enemy had stolen.
Yeah.
And that we were able to experience marriage the way God intended. Yes, we have a blended family, but we knew that God could let us walk in his ways if we trusted him to do so, if we submitted and were
Yeah.
obedient to that process. And the results of what God has for you and how he originally designed things is good. It's
Yeah.
perfect. It is holy. It is awesome, because those are all things that God is. And it is such an honor and a blessing that God is just so redemptive.
Yeah. I mean, on that note, I think it's time to close it out.
Yeah.
Like we thank you guys for watching. We thank you guys for going on this journey with us today. And this is the place where you rest and you receive and we move forward. So thanks for stopping at this train station. Thanks for hopping aboard. And we just can't wait to do this again. Until next time, we can't wait to see you. We love you.
We love you.